Janet and Greta Podleski grew up in a Polish household where the traditions were not all that healthy. Their mom used to say bacon drippings to fry up pork chops and potatoes for dinner, which was simply delicious, but not all that nutritious. The Podleski sisters now help their fans half their cake and eat it too. They like splurging on gluten-free brownies, whole wheat cinnamon rolls, and black bean and mango fandango. They are punny sisters and funny sisters, and they write fun cookbooks. Their newest is a collection of their greatest recipes. It is my pleasure to welcome Janet and Greta Podleski back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Hello.
Hi there.
Well, change of topic.
I guess
Slightly.
so.
I said to the weasel, he should stick around. But I don't know. I think he'd be more into the cheesecake than the quinoa.
Maybe we could name a recipe after him.
You should.
Let's work on that, Greta.
I think we should.
Why don't you? How did all this begin?
Just to stay in his good books.
Yeah, you girl. That could be in the weasel's good looks, good books, good something. I don't know.
We have to name a recipe after you after
I'm
all
ready
these
for
years.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to work on that. We're going to send you an email with a recipe named after you.
Will you?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
How great.
After all the years that we've known you and all the times that you've talked to us with now 4 books, well, we think you deserve your own recipe.
Okay, because we started out because of that barber, that wealthy barber.
That
And he
wealthy
called me
barber.
up, and we've told the story 100 times, but he called up and said, you have to talk to these sisters. My mother loves their recipes, and they're funny, and their food is nutritious, and
Well,
on it went.
Thank God for him
He
believing
forced
in
to
us
me.
back then, because it really helped to get us off the ground when people didn't know of us. And you know, I'm not a restaurant owner, and we're not professional writers, and so nobody wanted to publish our books. So thanks to the wealthy barber's help, we were able to self-publish.
And his mom, who loved our recipes when
Right.
he took our sample pages to his mom.
Sure.
She was the one that said, you have to help these poor girls to publish this
These
book.
poor girls.
Yes.
Yes, but these poor girls probably aren't poor anymore.
Well, it's funny because back then with our first Looney Spoons cookbook, which was 15 years ago, so now we're celebrating the 15th anniversary
Really?
of that book. I really believe when we went on tour and talked about it, that people felt sorry for us, and that's why they bought it. And then they took it home and cooked from it and went, you know what, these recipes are really good. And then they bought copies for their friends, who bought copies for their friends, and that sort of is what got everything
Sure.
moving.
And they're not just good, they're low fat.
Well, and back
Or
then,
some of them are
well,
low
15
fat.
years ago, everything was about get all the fat out of your diet. And, you know, we took that book, Looney Spoons, and our second book, Crazy Plates, out of print about 5 years ago because we have
you
our own
did?
public. Because it was so outdated nutritionally. I
Okay.
mean, like I said, it was all about get the fat out of your diet. Nobody cared about sugar. Nobody cared about salt. Nobody cared about fiber and protein.
And gluten.
The
And
books
so we
were-
didn't feel
yeah.
comfortable, so we pulled those books out of print, and the bookstores went crazy. They said, "Are you nuts? Why are you people are still coming in and they want those books." But for us, it wasn't about the money. It was about the integrity of giving people information
Okay, well,
that
I
we
still
were
have
comfortable.
my copies, so maybe
You
they're
need to
worth
sell
something.
them at a yard sale. Yeah,
I'm
you can sell
thinking.
it for $100 on eBay.
No, I'm putting them on eBay or something. They might be worth something.
So what we decided to do was bring back some of the favorite recipes that we had the most feedback on from those books, which were written in the 90s. As Janet and I like to say, they're so 90s.
Right.
And revise them and modify them and make them more 2011. Better carbs, better fats, less sugar, less sodium, and add 100 new recipes that no one's ever seen before into the Looney Spoons collection,
How
which
great.
has 325 recipes, one for almost every day of the year. We'll give you 40 days off a year where you don't have to cook.
Okay, because as you know, there are really good fats.
Yes.
And there are some not so good fats. So instead of the baking drippings, the mama used to cook the pork chops in. How about coconut oil or olive oil or
Yeah,
something like
and
that?
we talk about-
Canola oil.
Well, the hot one right now for stovetop cooking is avocado oil. And
Really?
I mean, I'm a registered holistic nutritionist, and I get people all the time that's a real dilemma for them. What do I use to cook with? I've heard this isn't good. I've heard this isn't good. And really, you shouldn't be using olive oil to heat on
Right,
the
because it
stovetop.
changes.
Well, it's the molecular structure of the
molecular
oil
structure.
changes, and that can change your molecules. So you don't want that.
Never.
But avocado oil is really stable at high temperatures, and it's very mild in flavor. So
Yeah,
it's a
and you
good one.
mentioned coconut oil. Well, back
Right.
in the 90s, everybody was saying that was horrible and to stay away from it. But now there's new research and new studies, and experts are saying that coconut oil is actually very good for you.
If you want to lose weight and keep looking young, have coconut oil. Is
Really?
what I would tell
Just
everyone.
slurp it.
I'm
well,
just going to slather it on my face.
why not? Why not? A little flax oil, a little coconut oil, a little
Yeah.
something. No butter. Well, some butter in the pan, but not butter on the face.
Not
Not
butter,
butter
on
on
the
the
face, but we're
face.
fans of butter.
Yeah.
We say we choose cows over scientists any day in the butter versus margarine debate. And obviously you don't want to go crazy with the stuff. It's very highly concentrated with calories, right? But butter is not bad for you.
Well, Julia Child would agree.
Yes, exactly.
God rest her
Yes.
soul. But you're not into deprivation. You're into splurging. Little bit here, a little bit there.
Well, we're kind of into the 80-20 rule, where 80% of the time you try to eat whole, nutritious, healthy foods, and 20% of the time have whatever it is that you're desperately craving, and it balances itself out in the long run. And I think that way you can sustain a healthy diet.
And you know, Fanny, we ended the new book with a chapter called Splurge-worthy, as you just said.
Right, I know.
And we included some recipes that definitely require moderation. An Italian cream cake layered with like coconut and pecans, and there's more butter and cream cheese than you can imagine. Some ribs.
Ribs Van Winkle.
Ribs
Ribs
Van
Van
Winkle,
Winkle,
yes.
of course.
And you know, because you don't want to deprive yourself, and every once in a while you do need to splurge. Oh, that's our chocolate banana cream pie there, and that's healthy. Come on.
Come on, looks healthy to me.
And Fanny, I did
Pie with peanut butter graham crust.
Yum.
Yeah,
You
that
gotta
tastes
splurge once in a while. But Greta tried to reduce the sugar and the salt and
That's right.
that kind of thing in most of the recipes.
Because
so,
she's the cook and you're the
and I'm the
nutritionist, as I
nutritionist.
recall.
Yeah.
Yes, and something new for this book that we never had in our previous books was all that food photography, which you're just looking at Britney Spears
know.
right there, the asparagus. But
So
And I
beautiful.
did the photography. This
You
is a
did?
new, it's just
Yes.
a hobby of
A
mine.
new incarnation. You're going to go back to that barber again, aren't you, and see if he'll publish your photography book. That'll be next.
Well, you know, we have a lot of people on our Facebook page, and I started posting pictures just that I was taking for fun
Right.
of some of the food photos earlier this year, and people went crazy and said, "Oh my gosh, those cinnamon buns look amazing!" Or
Right.
"That's awesome. Why aren't you taking pictures for all of your recipes?"
And Greta
And I-
looked at me and she's like, why aren't I taking the pictures?
Exactly. It makes sense.
So-
Ooey gooey cinnamon rolls, I bet with flax in them or something,
Yes,
right?
whole wheat flour and flax.
But you know what?
But that's okay. You can't tell.
You cannot tell, and this is how I know. We have some guys working at our office, and I took up the cinnamon buns after I made them, and I just laid them out on the table. I didn't say anything. I said, "I made you guys these cinnamon buns." Well, in 5 minutes, they were gone. Then I said to them, "You know, they actually have whole wheat flour and flax in them." They're like, "They do not. Like, you got those at the mall."
Right.
And I said, "No, they're really good for you." And they're like, "Well, then I'll have 7 more." And it kind of defeats
Sure.
the purpose of them being
Well, it's like
healthy.
dealing with kids. You just don't
Yes.
tell them what's in
No.
something.
You just hide it.
No, we fool our grandson all the time. He doesn't like anything but chicken, but he often has pork. He has no idea.
Looks the same.
Looks the same,
Right.
and for him it tastes the same.
Well,
so
in
he
this-
does like pork. He just doesn't know.
In this book, I challenged Greta to come up with a gluten-free flour blend because the ones that are out
There's
there
a big trend now to be gluten-free.
gluten-free, and the ones that are out there can be a little bit bitter. And I said, Greta, you're like the Rain Man of healthy cooking. I said,
The
come
Rain-
up with a
the
really
Rain
good.
Woman.
Yes, and so she did, and this blend is wonderful, and we have gluten-free miracle brownies in there that are yummy.
Yeah, we're really trying to emphasize some gluten-free recipes this time around, recipes for diabetics, reducing the sodium, but most importantly, keeping the flavor, because if it doesn't taste good, nobody's going to want to eat it
Exactly,
anyway.
exactly.
And the quinoa salad that we brought is an example of a recipe that is extremely healthy, but tastes so good that you could eat it every day.
I wanted to dive into that earlier, but Nathan Fong said, not
No
yet.
way.
Not yet.
right.
We have to put it on set.
It's delicious.
So what's in that? Quinoa? How do you
cook
cook
the quinoa with reduced sodium vegetable broth and put some spices in it, like curry and coriander and ground cumin, so it has a nice flavor. I usually use dried currants or another type of dried fruit in there, and then I'm adding things like chickpeas, cucumber, red bell pepper, lemon, mint, olive oil. It's like the freshest, most wonderful tasting salad, and it's so filling.
It's called Moroccan and Rollin quinoa
Okay,
salad.
Moroccan and roll.
Moroccan and
Moroccan
rollin'
and
because
rollin'.
Okay,
the
for the rock
spices are
stars in our life.
the
That's right.
spices are rockin' and the chickpeas are rollin' or something like
Of
that.
course, something like
Something
that.
like that.
You gotta
but
have
you can
fun
add anything
still.
to quinoa. It's an ancient grain and a really nutritious. It's high protein,
It's
right?
high protein. This is a waist watcher's dream, quinoa. And for people that have to lower their cholesterol and for diabetics, it's just wonderful because
Okay.
it's the fiber and the protein combo. That's the magic combination for lowering your blood sugar and keeping your weight down.
I'm for that, and I'm also for eating salmon cowl.
Salmon
Yeah. How about our soup section?
I wouldn't
Ladle
mind
Gaga.
dating Simon
Yes,
Cowell.
yes,
I know
exactly.
he's a
He's a cutie.
rascal. He's a cutie. I bet he's a rascal, but
He's a
Yeah.
cutie.
Salmon Cowell.
Yeah, that's like with an orange ginger marinade for grilled salmon. You could also use that marinade with chicken or with pork tenderloin. And as Janet mentioned, our soup chapter is called Ladle Gaga because we needed to have some current pop
Of course,
cultural
That's right.
you
references,
so
right?
do.
Yes.
Yeah,
some
Ladle
current
Gaga
things.
is the
Yes.
soup chapter, so if you're a soup Nazi,
Yes.
Ladle Gaga.
Well, it's funny,
And
you know, Fanny, we get a lot
Jamaican
of
me hungry, you girls.
Jamaican
Jamaican-
jerk chicken.
Yes.
Okay.